Emma was a rich CEO with an empty heart. David was a poor janitor with a sick daughter. When little Sophie said, "Hi, I'm Sophie. My daddy works here now," she didn't know she was about to bring two broken souls together and create the perfect family. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Emma Richardson sat in her corner office on the 40th floor, looking out at the city below. As CEO of Richardson Industries, she had everything money could buy. But her heart felt empty. At 35, she had focused so much on building her company that she had forgotten to build a life. The elevator dinged and her assistant Sarah walked in with a stack of papers. "Ms. Richardson, the new janitor is here for his first day. His name is David Miller." Emma barely looked up. "That's fine, Sarah. Just show him around." But something made her glance toward the door. A tall man with kind brown eyes stood there, holding the hand of a little girl with curly hair and bright smile. The girl couldn't have been more than 6 years old. "I'm sorry," David said quietly. "My daughter's school is closed today. I couldn't find a babysitter. This won't happen again, I promise." Emma felt her heart skip. The little girl waved at her with tiny fingers. "Hi, I'm Sophie. My daddy works here now." Emma found herself smiling for the first time in weeks. "Hello, Sophie. I'm Emma. Are you the boss lady my daddy told me about?" "Sophie," David said, his face red with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Richardson. I'll take her to the daycare downstairs right now." But Emma stood up and walked over to them. "It's okay. What grade are you in, Sophie?" "First grade. I can read really good. Want me to show you?" Emma looked at David. His clothes were old but clean. His shoes had been fixed many times. But his love for his daughter was clear in every look he gave her. "Actually," Emma said, surprising herself, "why don't you both come to my office? Sophie can read to me while you learn about the job." David looked shocked. "Ma'am, I couldn't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Over the next few weeks, Emma found herself looking forward to seeing David and Sophie. Sophie would visit the office sometimes, always polite and curious about everything. David worked harder than anyone Emma had ever seen. He arrived early and stayed late. He treated every task, no matter how small, like it was the most important thing in the world. One evening, Emma was working late when she heard singing coming from the hallway. She opened her door and saw Sophie sitting on a chair while David cleaned nearby offices. Sophie was singing a lullaby to her doll. "That's beautiful, Sophie," Emma said. "My mama used to sing this to me," Sophie said sadly. "But she went to heaven 2 years ago." Emma's heart broke. She looked at David, who had stopped cleaning and was watching his daughter with such love and pain in his eyes. "I'm sorry for your loss," Emma said softly. "Thank you," David replied. "Sophie is my whole world now." Emma sat down next to Sophie. "Your daddy loves you very much." "I know. He tells me every day. He says we're a team, just me and him." From that day, Emma began to understand what real love looked like. It wasn't about expensive gifts or fancy dinners. It was about a father who worked 3 jobs to pay for his daughter's dance classes. It was about a little girl who saved her allowance to buy her daddy a new coffee mug because his old one was broken. Emma started finding excuses to spend time with David and Sophie. She would bring Sophie books from her personal library. She would order extra food for office meetings and share it with them. "Why are you so nice to us?" David asked one day after Emma had given Sophie a beautiful dress for her school play. "Because you're good people," Emma said simply. But inside she knew it was more than that. She was falling in love with David's gentle heart and Sophie's innocent joy. They had brought light into her dark world. Sophie was getting ready for the school play where she would be an angel. Emma surprised them both by saying she wanted to come watch. "Really?" Sophie asked, her eyes wide. "You want to see me be an angel?" "I wouldn't miss it for anything," Emma said. At the play, Emma sat with other parents and watched Sophie shine on stage. When Sophie saw Emma in the audience, she smiled so big that everyone could see it from the back row. After the play, Sophie ran to Emma and hugged her tight. "Did you see me? Did you see me be an angel?" "You were the most beautiful angel I've ever seen," Emma said, tears in her eyes. David watched them together, and Emma could see something changing in his face. Maybe he was starting to care about her too. Christmas was coming, and Emma did something she had never done before. She invited David and Sophie to her house for dinner. Her house was big and beautiful, but it felt cold and empty. When David and Sophie arrived, everything changed. Sophie ran around looking at everything with wonder. David helped Emma cook dinner, and for the first time her house felt like a home. "This is the most beautiful house ever," Sophie said. It's like a princess castle. Do you want to see the garden? Emma asked. They went outside where Emma had a small garden with flowers and a fountain. Sophie had never seen anything like it. Daddy, look. It's like a fairy garden. David smiled at his daughter's joy, but Emma could see sadness in his eyes too. She understood. He was thinking about all the things he couldn't give Sophie. That night, after Sophie fell asleep on Emma's couch, David and Emma sat by the fireplace. Thank you, David said quietly. Sophie has never been this happy. You've given us both something special. You've given me something too, Emma said. I never knew what I was missing until I met you both. David looked at her, and Emma saw something in his eyes that made her heart race. Slowly he reached over and took her hand. Emma, But then Sophie woke up and the moment was gone. After that night, things changed between Emma and David. They began to spend more time together. Emma would pick Sophie up from school sometimes. They would have dinner together at Emma's house or go to the park. Emma loved watching David with Sophie. He was patient and kind, always listening to her stories and helping with her homework. He made pancakes shaped like animals and read her bedtime stories with different voices for each character. Sophie started calling Emma Miss Emma, and would draw pictures for her office. Emma put every single picture on her wall, even though her business partners thought it was strange. One day Sophie got sick with a fever. David had to stay home from work to take care of her. Emma surprised them by showing up at their small apartment with soup and medicine. David's apartment was tiny but clean and warm. Emma could see how hard David worked to make it a good home for Sophie. There were pictures of Sophie everywhere and books stacked neatly on shelves David had built himself. You didn't have to come, David said, but Emma could see he was grateful. I wanted to, Emma said. How is she? Better now. The fever broke this morning. Sophie was lying on the couch, still weak but smiling when she saw Emma. Miss Emma? You came to see me? Of course I did, sweetheart. I brought you some books and soup. Emma sat with Sophie while David made tea. She read to Sophie until the little girl fell asleep in her arms. She loves you, David said softly. I love her too, Emma said. And I love you, David. The words came out before she could stop them. David looked at her with such love in his eyes that Emma thought her heart might burst. I love you too, Emma. More than I ever thought possible. He leaned down and kissed her gently, and Emma felt like her whole world had changed. For 6 months, Emma, David, and Sophie were like a real family. Emma would wake up early to make breakfast for them. She learned to braid Sophie's hair and help with homework. She went to every school event and dance recital. David moved into Emma's house, and suddenly the big empty rooms were filled with laughter and love. Sophie had her own room with a princess bed and all the books she could want. Emma's business partners were surprised by the change in her. She smiled more and seemed happier than ever before. She would leave work early to be with her family and refuse to work weekends. Family comes first now, she would tell them. Sophie thrived in her new life. She had new friends from her new school and took dance lessons and art classes. But most importantly, she had 2 people who loved her completely. Daddy, Sophie said one night at dinner, Miss Emma is like my new mama, isn't she? David and Emma looked at each other and smiled. What do you think about that, sweetheart? Emma asked. I think it's perfect, Sophie said. We're a real family now. 1 year after they first met, Emma knew she wanted to spend her life with David and Sophie. She had never been so happy or felt so complete. She planned a special evening. She made David's favorite dinner and Sophie's favorite dessert. After Sophie went to bed, Emma and David sat in the garden under the stars. David, Emma said, her heart pounding, this past year has been the best of my life. Mine too, David said, holding her hand. Emma took a deep breath. I want us to be a real family forever. Will you marry me? But instead of the joy she expected to see, David's face went white. He dropped her hand and stood up quickly. Emma, I can't. What do you mean you can't? Emma asked, standing up too. I thought you loved me. I do love you. More than anything. But I can't marry you. Why not? Is it because you think people will say I'm only marrying you for your money? I don't care what people think. David shook his head, tears in his eyes. It's not that. Then what is it? Help me understand. But David just looked at her with so much pain in his eyes that Emma felt scared. I'm sorry, Emma. I can't do this. I can't marry you and I can't stay here anymore. David, please? But he was already walking toward the house. I'll pack our things tonight. We'll be gone in the morning. Emma felt like her world was falling apart. What about Sophie? You can't take her away from the only stable home she's ever known. David stopped at the door. Sophie will be fine. She was fine before we met you and she'll be fine after. But what about us? What about our family? We were never a real family, Emma. That was just pretend. With that, he went inside, leaving Emma alone in the garden, her heart broken into a million pieces. Emma couldn't sleep that night. She could hear David moving around upstairs packing their things. She wanted to go to him to beg him to tell her what was wrong, but she was too hurt and confused. David looked at Emma with so much pain in his eyes. Emma, you shouldn't be here. Yes, I should. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. I told you. You told me lies, Emma said firmly. Lisa told me the truth about Rachel. David's face went white. He looked at his sister with anger and hurt. You had no right. I had every right, Lisa said. You're destroying your life and Sophie's life because you're too scared to take a chance on happiness. Sophie, go play in your room for a few minutes, David said quietly. But Daddy. Go, sweetheart. Miss Emma and I need to talk. After Sophie left reluctantly, David, Emma, and Lisa sat down in the small living room. David, Emma said gently, I'm not Rachel. I know that. And I'm not going anywhere. I don't care about money or social status. I care about you and Sophie. You say that now, but what happens when you realize what you've given up? What happens when your business friends start talking about how you married beneath you? What happens when? Stop, Emma said firmly. Just stop. Do you think so little of me that you believe I would abandon the people I love because of what other people think? David was quiet for a long moment. I couldn't save Rachel. I couldn't give her what she needed. Rachel needed medical treatment that was expensive. That's not your fault. You loved her and she chose to stay with you because your love was more important to her than money. Don't you see? You did save her in the most important way. You gave her a life full of love, and you gave her Sophie. But if I had been able to afford better insurance, then maybe things would have been different. Or maybe they wouldn't have. You can't control everything, David. Bad things happen to rich people and poor people alike. The only thing you can control is how much love you give and how much happiness you choose to accept. David looked at Emma with tears in his eyes. I'm so scared, Emma. I can't lose someone else I love. Emma reached over and took his hands. You're not going to lose me. I promise you that. But if you keep pushing me away, you'll lose me anyway and you'll lose Sophie's happiness too. Miss Emma? Sophie had crept back into the room and was standing in the doorway. Are you and Daddy fighting? No, sweetheart, Emma said. We're just talking about important things. Sophie climbed onto the couch between Emma and David. I want to go home. I want us to be a family again. David looked at his daughter's hopeful face and then at Emma's loving eyes. Lisa was watching from across the room with her own tears. I want that too, baby girl, David whispered. I want that more than anything. It took several long conversations, but finally, David began to believe that Emma's love was real and permanent. Emma proved it by doing something that shocked everyone who knew her. She sold her company. Emma, you can't be serious, her business partner said. Richardson Industries is your life's work. No, Emma said calmly. My family is my life's work now. She sold the company for enough money to secure their future and buy a smaller, more comfortable home. She started a small consulting business that she could run from home so she could always be there for Sophie. David was amazed. You gave up everything for us. I didn't give up anything, Emma said. I gained everything that matters. 6 months later, Emma asked David to marry her again. This time, they were sitting in their new backyard while Sophie played on the swing set Emma had installed. David Miller, will you marry me? This time, David smiled through his tears. Yes, Emma Richardson. I will marry you. Yay. Sophie yelled from the swing set. We're getting married. They laughed and hugged each other and Emma felt like the luckiest person in the world. They had a small wedding in their backyard garden with just family and close friends. Sophie was the flower girl and wore the most beautiful white dress with angel wings. Now I'm a real angel, she told everyone who would listen. David's sister Lisa was the maid of honor, and Emma's assistant Sarah was there too. Even some of the workers from Emma's old company came to celebrate. But the most important moment came when the minister asked if anyone had anything to say before the vows. Sophie stepped forward with a piece of paper in her hand. I wrote something, she said seriously. Go ahead, sweetheart, Emma said. Sophie cleared her throat and read from her paper. Miss Emma, thank you for loving my daddy and me. Thank you for making us a real family. I promise to always clean my room and do my homework and be the best daughter ever. Daddy, thank you for finding Miss Emma for us. I love you both so much. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. When David and Emma exchanged vows, they promised not just to love each other, but to be the best parents they could be to Sophie. I promise to love you in good times and bad, in sickness and health, in wealth and poverty, Emma said. I promise to be the mother Sophie deserves and the wife you need. I promise to trust in your love and never let fear keep us apart again, David said. I promise to be worthy of the gift you've given us both. When they kissed, Sophie cheered and threw flower petals in the air. 2 years later, Emma and David welcomed a baby boy they named Michael. Sophie was the proudest big sister in the world. He's so little, she whispered when she first held him. Don't worry, baby Michael. Big sister Sophie will teach you everything. Emma watched David with their son and saw no trace of the fearful man who had once walked away from love. David was confident and happy, secure in the knowledge that his family loved him completely. They moved to an even bigger house with room for both children to grow and play. David started his own cleaning business and hired several people to work for him. Emma's consulting business grew too, but she always made sure work never came before family. Sophie started second grade at a new school and made lots of friends. She told everyone about her baby brother and how her parents had the most romantic love story ever. My daddy was scared to marry my mama because he thought he wasn't good enough, she would tell her friends. But love made him brave. 5 years after that first meeting in Emma's office, their family was complete and happy. David's business was successful, and Emma had found the perfect balance between work and family. Sophie was now 11 and was on the honor roll at school. She still loved to read and had decided she wanted to be a teacher when she grew up, so I can help kids learn like Miss Emma helped me. Michael was 3 and looked exactly like David but had Emma's determination. He followed Sophie everywhere and called her Sassy instead of Sophie. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Emma and David sat in their garden after the children were asleep. Do you ever regret it? David asked. Giving up your old life for this? Emma laughed. Never. Do you ever regret letting yourself believe in love? Never, David said, pulling her close. You saved us both, Emma. You saved me from my fear and Sophie from losing the chance at a real family. We saved each other, Emma said. That's what love does. Inside the house, they could hear Sophie reading a bedtime story to Michael in her room. The sound of their children's voices was the most beautiful music Emma had ever heard. Mama? Sophie called softly. Can you come tuck us in? Coming, sweetheart. Emma called back. As they walked inside together, Emma thought about how far they had all come. She had learned that real love wasn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was about choosing each other every day, being brave enough to trust, and building a life together one small moment at a time. David had learned that he was worthy of love and that his past didn't define his future. He had learned to let go of fear and embrace the happiness that was offered to him. And Sophie had learned that families come in all different forms, and that love can heal even the deepest wounds. Sophie graduated as valedictorian of her high school class. In her speech, she talked about the importance of family and love. 10 years ago, my daddy and I met a woman who changed our lives forever. My mom taught me that love is the most powerful force in the world. It can heal broken hearts, bring people together, and create miracles. In the audience, Emma and David held hands and cried with pride. Michael, now 13, was trying to act too cool to cry but was secretly proud of his big sister. After the ceremony, Sophie hugged her parents tight. Thank you, she whispered, for showing me what real love looks like. Thank you, Emma whispered back, for bringing us together. David smiled at his 2 girls and his son. Thank you all for making me the luckiest man in the world. As they walked to their car together, Emma thought about the scared woman she used to be, alone in her empty office. She thought about the frightened man David had been, too afraid to accept love. And she thought about the little girl who had brought them together with her pure, innocent faith in the power of love. Sometimes the most beautiful stories begin with the simplest words. Hi. I'm Sophie. My daddy works here now. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, those words can change your whole world.